Just my take here as we get ready for the start of the 24 season in about 8.5 months. It looks certainly like Carson Beck made the right call coming back. I want to review a couple of things that happened as we concluded the season in Miami. Carson Beck was added 200 yards to his total on Saturday and only played half the game. So there's that. He went to second place all time in the single season history passing yards with 3,941. Aaron Murray was passed on that one, which is a heck of it. That was a 2012 season for Aaron. And that was a really good Georgia team, a really good Georgia offense. Carson 5-1 against top 25 opponents. And set the season record for percentage of completions. So, it's going to be the conclusion of this season for Georgia is going to be obviously a what I would call a lukewarm one, which is amazing when you start talking about they're probably going to finish in the top five, certainly in the top five, perhaps top four. They're going to will have won a major bowl game by a bowl record. But at the end of the day, at this stage, we're barreling towards 2024. But with that said, Carson Beck led teams, excuse me, are really impressive. These are the teams that Carson beat this year. Tennessee, they beat the Tennessee Vols on the road for the record. That I'll tell you what, that game he really played pretty well in that game. They beat them by 4 touchdowns on the road. They beat. We'll see what Tennessee does today. I don't know if they'll continue to play well or not. I would expect they really will. They beat the Ole Miss Rebels by. When I gotta do math, I mean that's how bad they're beating people. They beat them by 5 touchdowns. They beat Ole Miss. Ole Miss gonna be finish the season top 10 for sure. I don't know after that where they're gonna be, but if they're ranked behind Ohio State, there's a problem. Georgia beat, I know this one, they beat top 10 Missouri by 9. And they beat I'm assuming top 10 Florida State by 60 points. That was Carson Beck's 2021 in a nutshell. I saw his marketing deal, the folks that are representing him at Everett, I think it's Everett, talking about how he was the leading Heisman candidate in 2024, and like Ryan and Matt and I were kicking that around, and we're like, well, I mean, yeah, he is. That's the crazy part is that Carson, the one thing he's missing now, because I don't think a Heisman Trophy, that's a great honor that goes to one person, and that's so as a Heisman Trophy voter, that's so subjective. I voted for the winner this year. But I don't always vote for the winner. The quantifiable thing, particularly in 2024, the 2024 season, is going to be the ability to win the national championship. You're going to hear me talk about this a lot from here on out. And if you're watching this channel, that means that you understand what I'm saying. But this is really, there's only one reason for Carson to come back. It was to win the national championship because he's an NFL quarterback. Now, how high up he is, that may be reason 1A, but I just don't, I don't know. Start the new year off right with our friends from Eco Poly. Look at this Adirondack chair. It's in Georgia colors. You can mix it up a little bit, but we choose to show you all the Georgia stuff a lot so that you can see if you're in the mountains or if you want Christmas. No, if you're in the mountains, I would go. Maybe something like that is super foresty, but we kind of stick with showing y'all the red and black. This is made out of it looks like wood. It's better than wood. You're not gonna get splinters. I can attest to that after sitting in them for half a year now. That's a 20-year warranty product right there that is made of completely recycled plastics from our friends at Eco Poly down in Dodge County. We really appreciate and value them, and I wish y'all would check them out. The link to that is right down below. For Carson and company, they're certainly going to finish in the top 5. I think depending on what happens in the Sugar Bowl, probably specifically, we'll see what happens there if UW or Texas can fall out. But these voters are such idiots sometimes. They don't, they're assuming because someone loses, like Texas is in front of Alabama in these polls. It shouldn't be. I mean, Alabama's better than Texas. So, I mean, I don't need to get started on all that again, do I? I mean, it's just what it is. But, I think I think Carson made the right call. And I think that the very narrow scope of this is winning the national championship for the third time in 4 years. People talked about how difficult it was to repeat. I don't know if I'd say that. And I don't know that I would say that three-peating was overwhelmingly difficult necessarily. I think there's one game a season you got to watch it. And Georgia, didn't lose in 15, but if they had against Missouri, they would have lost the right game. If they'd lost to Ohio State, which they didn't, then they wouldn't have won the national championship, obviously. In this case, quite clearly they lost the wrong game in 23, and it cost them. It was not, the logic and reasoning was incorrect, but it cost them. So as we gussy up for this journey into 24, Carson will be anointed as I can't imagine JJ McCarthy is coming back. I mean, I don't know, but Carson's just I would say notably better quarterback than him. You got Quinn Ewers at Texas, Jalen Milroe. Now these are going off the top of my head here. Jalen Milroe is at Alabama. He will get a lot of attention. He's not a better quarterback than Carson is. And Alabama folks, I appreciate y'all watching, but your comments are often idiotic. Not all, but often are idiotic. But y'all prove that a lot, generally speaking. And I don't care. Y'all can do whatever you want. I have no ill will towards Alabama. But you prove that on Paul's show a lot. You prove it in the comments a lot. I would clean all that stuff up. I didn't do a leggy sauce encompassing a lot of college football this past. I talked a lot about the staff at Georgia and so forth, the reaction to that game. But I'm looking at some of these rankings here to my left. Really not a good bowl season for the Big Ten, and the bowl season is not the end all be all. But that's a bad look for the Big Ten. I would have loved to have seen Georgia play Ohio State or Penn State. I wonder how bad those would have been. Penn State wouldn't have scored hardly on Georgia, but Georgia would probably scored at least as much as Ole Miss, somewhere around that ballpark. That would have been a nasty game. Ohio State's got some legitimate questions now to me about Ryan Day. They don't have, are you going to fire him questions, but they have legitimate questions. Is this working? The answer right now is, yeah, but not the way we want it to. And Michigan went through that. I think, though, the thing to keep in mind, the thing that Carson and company don't get the ability to do is they don't get to cruise, through 3/4 of their season without being tested. I mean, that's what the Big Ten has become. The Big Ten, now, hopefully next year, when you start looking at UW coming in, but SC's no good. USC's not done anything under Lincoln Riley. So, this league, when you look at Georgia's schedule in 24, it's just hard to really you're playing essentially every legitimate team in the South in a 13-game stretch. And now I'm including Florida State in that. So they're going to play Florida State, Clemson, clearly the ACC's two best and only teams in the last decade. Then they play Alabama, Auburn, Texas, Gators, Tennessee, and this season Ole Miss. They're playing 8 legitimate, programs. Now, no, I know Florida's bad. I get that. I know Tennessee's not where Georgia is. I understand that. I understand Auburn. I understand Auburn apparently only really plays well against the Dogs and Tide at Jordan Hare. Okay, I get it. But, in terms of brand names, Georgia's playing Florida State, Clemson, Alabama, Texas, Florida, Tennessee, Auburn. That's a lot of name brand. And, I mean, if there are name brands bigger than Georgia, there might be 2. I mean, it's there's not a lot. So they're clashing all these teams together, and it's gonna be an opportunity of a season for Carson Beck, and we're gonna see if he gets it done. Um, right or wrong, these seasons now are judged by do you win the national championship or not. And that's burned up Dabo Swinney down there at Clemson or up there, whatever it is, over there. Um, but Clemson's not Georgia, and the expectations are not quite the same. They never really have been. That was a different situation. Those were two exceptional quarterbacks and a fan base that is far more patient than Georgia's has ever thought about being. I mean, Dabo Swinney was about ran out of town. People forget that. And when I was at the Orange Bowl, Georgia was about to score 70. I quite remember that game. I was on the field for that game with Clemson and West Virginia. So um, Georgia's big thing now is, can you win it at all? Because if you don't, I would never call a top 5 season with a major bowl victory and a undefeated regular season. That's not a failure. That's not even close to a failure. So we have to be in perspective as to what we're talking about here. But it does seem more and more that what is success? Are you winning the national championship or not? And that's got to be the reason Carson Beck came back.